Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 29th August 2016. The first article is related to uncertain times in London. So this is related to the Brexit. In this, as per the Lisbon Treaty, Article 15, the country which wants to get out from the European Union, it has to initiate the Brexit proceedings. It means UK has to initiate the Brexit proceedings now. Now, as UK says that they can be initiated only as early as late 2017. It means that more the Brexit proceedings are delayed, it can harm the European Union further as it strengthens the voice of the separatists from France and Holland, etc. And it is also not good for the UK. If you see the situation now, the Scotland, it has voted in favor of remaining in the European Union. But however, the entire national opinion of Brexit did not go well with the Scots, and Scots are asking for a second referendum on Scotland exiting the UK. And second thing is, it will also affect the Scotland economy worse because most of the exports of the Scots are to the European Union. And the second thing is Ireland. The Northern Ireland, it has a free movement agreement with Dublin. But however, today, as UK comes out of the European Union, this free movement agreement may get affected. It appears that the problems for London are going to worsen rather than improving after the Brexit. And it is also not a good sign for the global trade. Now coming to Kashmir issue. Any separatist movement, it is more about symbolism rather than the substance. Or I can say that the symbolism and substance, they go well with each other. Symbolism, now when you are communicating with each other rather than the substance, people give importance to the symbolisms. It gets aggravated in these separatist movements, and Kashmir is not an exception. So what are the symbolisms with related to Kashmir? Article 370, which of the Indian Constitution, which gives a specialty status to the Jammu and Kashmir. And the next one is separate flag and the separate constitution. If you come to the reality, Article 370 is very much diluted, and the other two things are just symbolic in nature. And the fourth one is Armed Forces Special Powers Act. And Kashmiris see the deployment of the central forces in the residential areas as affecting their freedoms and a symbol of state oppression. In this scenario, symbolisms need to be respected. Now here there are two views if you observe. One is the BJP founder Shyam Prasad Mukherjee. He says that a country shall have one constitution, one symbol and one policy. Now, having a separate constitution, he always objected for the Kashmir. On the other hand, if you take the Vajpayee era, he spoke about Insaniyat, Kashmiriyat and Jamhuriyat. It means that democracy and the special culture and identity of the Kashmir has to be respected. So in this scenario, if the government takes the lead of Vajpayee and leads to the negotiation and discussion with the Kashmiri leaders, it can provide for an improvement in the situation. So, the symbolism need to be given due emphasis. What the UPA government did, if you observe, it is sending the interlocutors, conducting the roundtable conferences, engagement with separatist leaders. All these are symbolic gestures. So in these circumstances, the present government also has to take a clue from these and can improve the situation in Kashmir. Now coming to further thing on the Kashmir. Whatever is happening in Kashmir, it is more like reinvention of the wheel. Now, discussion with the leaders and then governmental high authorities visit to Kashmir, that is the Home Minister, Finance Minister and their visits to Kashmir. And added to that, soothing words from the Prime Minister, and withdrawal of the pellet guns, which have become the symbols of oppression, and the dialogue. All these are in line with what UPA government did. Now, what this article says is, bringing in peace in the valley, or else stopping of the clashes is not just enduring peace. It is just a stopover. So a sustained effort towards appeasing the tensions in the minds of the Kashmiris is the need of the hour. Now coming to India-US relations, there are three foundational defense agreements which the US stresses on for greater defense cooperation. So India-US started this DTTI, Defense Trade and Technology Initiative. Now these three foundational agreements are critical for this. One is LEMOA, the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, SISMOA, Communication and Information Security Memorandum of Agreement, and after that, Bilateral Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, the BICA. The first one helps to exchange the facilities of one with the other during the need of the hour. The second helps with regard to the communication security. And third one is related to the exchange of information related to navies on the high seas, the geospatial information. So these three are very critical for the functioning of a defense agreement with the US. In this, the decks are cleared for the signing of LEMOA. The next article is related to India's entry into NSG. USA said it can support the India's entry into NSG at its highest level. If you see in 2008, the George Bush call to China, it made a big difference for NSG waiver to India. Added to that, the Secretary of State Kerry is visiting India, and the aim of the visit is to have a dialogue, that is security and commercial dialogue. So in the Obama era, this is going to be last one such dialogue. And added to this, the India and US joint position in the Asia Pacific, a joint vision, and China's orientation to the South China Sea, all this also will be discussed in this particular meeting. Now coming to Scorpion. You know that the Scorpion documents are leaked in Australia, and the newspaper based in Australia has revealed it to the public. Now, if you observe the Scorpion technology, the central aspect of the DNA is keeping it opaque. Generally, a scorpion will be identified by its acoustic signal, that is the sound frequencies it releases into the water. And also, it can be identified based on the fingerprint of the boat. So now any investigation has to look into to what extent this is compromised. If it is compromised, then scorpion becomes a duck in the water. So we need to be very careful. Now coming to surrogacy. Now the present bill, it only limits the surrogacy on altruistic terms to the couple who do not have children for 5 years. So now it limits it only to the heterosexual couples. So it means homosexuals, foreigners, and single mothers, single parents, and live-in relationship. No one can have a child through surrogacy. So now what the author argues is, so altruistic terms taking up the surrogacy from a relative may not be possible in all the circumstances. So too much of state restriction onto this particular sector, it may push that sector into underground, and exploitation may become much worse. When the country imposed the restrictions on gay surrogacy, then the entire market shifted to Nepal, and the women of India are being taken to Nepal, and the exploitation was much severe. So in these circumstances, government regulations shall protect the woman, and rather than creating much hazards to her. Now coming to SCRAMJET, it is called supersonic combustion ramjet. So the normal ramjet, what it does is, so it reduces the speed when it takes the air into it to burn the fuel. So here, the SCRAMJET, it takes the atmospheric oxygen to burn the fuel. So even ramjet does the same, but at a subsonic speed. It does it at the supersonic speed without reducing the speed of the flight. So that's why its efficiency is much higher than compared to ramjet. So India has tested this. It means that India will also be placed in the higher club, and it can be used for intercontinental travel, and also it increases the efficiency of the carrying of the payload into the space. Now coming to the global trade ministers meet in Oslo, Norway. If you observe, the new issues have come for the discussion at Nairobi summit. What are these new issues? E-commerce, global value chains, logistics management, and then environmental issues. These are the new issues which the developed world is stressing on. So these new issues and the way forward will be discussed at this trade ministers meet. In this, India has proposed for trade facilitation agreement in services. So it means the freedom of trade in services need to be allowed through WTO, and India is stressing for free liberal visa regime for facilitation of the trade in services. And the second thing is GST. The 122nd Constitutional Amendment Act is a rare move to improve the economy. It is the greatest reform ever in the taxation in India. So in this scenario, if the tax rate is too high, the people lose the confidence in the reform. It may lead to inflation, increase the unemployment, decrease the competitiveness of our industry. So that's why that has to be kept at a reasonable level. That is what is the demand of the article. So these are the articles for today. Thank you very much. All the best.